Hey there, A's Day fans. Welcome to our Friday edition of our show where we talk everything athletics baseball. I'm your host, Joe Grado. Thank you for kicking off your weekend with us as we are going to discuss the A's fresh off of a sweep in the south side of the Chicago White Sox. We are going to recap that before we move on to their next series in the Midwest to take on the Milwaukee Brewers, which will give everyone a little preview of that leading up to first pitch on this Friday afternoon. A's have won 4 of 6, definitely gearing up and headed in the right direction. And Soderstrom is unconscious at the plate. We're excited to talk all about it and more of what's to come. So, Holy Toledo, A's are in the full swing of things. Thank you for joining for today's show. After the opening music, we'll jump right into it. Let's go. All right. Thank you again for spending part of your Friday with us. We'll be sure not to drone on and on so that you can ride the wave of excitement of athletics baseball. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, they have won 4 of 6. And let's recap what went down in the Windy City as the A's were in Chicago to take on the White Sox. Game 1 featured a pitching matchup of Jeffrey Springs for the green and gold going up against Sean Burke. There were certainly tons of fireworks in the first inning. After leadoff singles by Lawrence Butler and Brent Rooker, the hot hitting continued as Tyler Soderstrom added another Sody pop of the 3-run variety, at the time his major league leading 7th home run of the year. And just like that, it was 3-0 A's right out of the gate. As we head to the bottom of that same frame, the White Sox responded right back. A Vargas double and Sosa walk after a Luis Robert strikeout. Andrew Vaughn gets his own 3-run home run. His bomb on the board as it's now 3-3 after 1. Certainly seemed like a game that was going to feature a lot of offense. On to the second inning, Gio Urshela would lace an RBI single to right field, driving home Jacob Wilson. It's now 4-3 A's. In the third, catcher Shea Bangaliers clubbed his 4th home run of the year as they tack on and make it 5-3. Would remain that score the same until the 6th. Jeffrey Springs really did a good job settling down after that 3-run first inning. He ended up going 5 innings pitched, 3 hits allowed, 3 earned, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. And then the South Side slaughter was on. And all with 2 outs. Max Muncy started the rally with a double. Lawrence Butler added an RBI single. Rooker would follow with a single. And then there goes that man again. Another 3-run Sody pop from Tyler Soderstrom, his major league leading 8th home run of the year, his 3rd multi-home run game of the season early on in this 2025 campaign. After a 4-run outburst in the 6th, it's now 9-3 A's. A's would add 3 more on in the 9th for good measure, and the pitching attack went Springs to Sterner to Spence, who ended up earning his first career save because he worked 3 or more innings out of the bullpen. They hold on, and they win this one 12-3. A's win game 1. Not really anything to hold on to there. This was a drubbing. Holy Soderstrom. This was something. He continues to impress. The young 23-year-old first baseman is off to a hot start and has another multi-home run game, his 3rd of the year. It's only April. So really cool to see what a little adjustment at the plate with his stance. It just looks so repeatable, and it looks like he's going to do consistent damage with every pitch that comes near in the strike zone. This game, he goes 3 for 5, 2 homers, 6 RBIs. He is the main catalyst of this offensive attack. So really hats off to him. I mean, he's been considered that they're calling him the Babe Ruth of the A's, and he's really, I mean, 9 home runs and 17 games at this point. That's an absurd. 8 home runs in 17 games at this point. That's an absurd pace, and you don't think he's going to keep this up all year. Obviously, game is one of peaks and valleys, so certainly the performance will come down to earth at some point. But until then, let's enjoy the ride. Really cool to see someone that was coming into camp. You wonder if he was going to be the everyday first baseman or if he was going to end up in that platoon role. If he showed early signs of struggling against left-handed pitching or whatnot, you wonder if he was going to get some time behind the plate. And if things were going to start clicking since he is only 23, you wonder if there was still some development that still needed to be had, and there still will be. But he is so young in his career, and once these pitchers are going to start making adjustments on how they attack him, he's going to have to start making his adjustments, and that's when you guys kind of see the ebbs and flows. These guys having really high peaks and some really low lows, but it's just matter. The guys that last are the ones that manage those ups and downs so consistently and with an open mind and absolute focus on just doing what it takes to find the best pathway forward of getting better and just keep improving in your craft. And it's really exciting to see the quick development and Soderstrom really coming on the scene. So just really wanted to highlight him here and seeing him get some attention on MLB social media. That's really saying something because it just seemed like they do focus more on those bigger market teams. So the fact that I've been seeing pretty consistent content about the A's must mean some exciting things must be happening for them. So especially keep it going, Sody. Well, I'd love to keep calling out those Sody pops as Dallas Braden often coins his home runs. So definitely want to shout him out and give credit it's due. Just love that little phrase there. Holy Sody. Jeffrey Springs, he improves to 3-1 on the year after kind of a rough first inning where he gives up the 3-run home run after allowing some traffic. He really settled in. I mean, he only gave up 2 hits the rest of the way, I believe. Definitely no runs. And he really just kind of settled in and kind of made sure that this wasn't turning into one of those games where the bullpen was going to have to be called on early to try to eat up some innings there. So really good on Springs setting the tone there, especially getting an offensive outburst towards the tail end of his performance, but really impressive stuff from him and really just continuing to show he is a pretty consistent and comforting force for this rotation. So looking to see him continue to find ways to work deeper into games, but I do think he is someone that's always going to give your team a chance to win on that day. Mitch Spence, like I said, he did earn his first career save, did excellent job out of the bullpen, so just wanted to shout that out. Someone that has served 2 roles as a starter in the past, but also as this bridge guy to eat up some innings and maybe save some of those back end guys or other guys that are more reserved for just 1 or 2 innings. Having someone like Spence that can give you some length and let the bullpen rest and realizing this is a marathon, it's 162. So you can't just keep burning your bullpen every night. So it's good to have someone like that's kind of playing that swingman role and really good on Spence to keep the White Sox at bay. Really good game from Langoliers too as well. He definitely flashed the power, the extra base variety. He went 3 for 5 in this one. He had a home run, and it was his 4th of the year, and he added a double and a couple RBIs too as well. So Langoliers seems like he's really heating up and pretty consistent. I think by season's end, you're going to see why national attention is going to garner him as one of the better catchers in all baseball. So stay tuned for all that. Just want to shout out Justin Sterner in the bullpen too. Another scoreless outing for him. He is now at this point 9 1/3 scoreless to kick off 2025. The former Ray, this is a guy that definitely wasn't a slam dunk to make the roster out of spring training. He wondered if he was going to start at AAA and get summoned upon later on, but all he's done since he's gotten his first opportunity down in Mesa is just keep putting up zeros on the board. And he's definitely becoming one of the more reliable guys in this bullpen that Kotsay can rely on and know he's probably going to put up a goose egg. So the more zeros he puts up, the more time he's going to get out there. And it's really nice to have a steadying force in a bullpen that's had its ups and downs, I'd say, early in this year. But I think all in all, he's been probably the most consistent next to Mason Miller. So just wanted to shout him out too as well. So at this point, A's win this one 12-3. We've been kind of pondering around here on the dominant performance from the A's in game 1. But with that, it's time to flip the page and go on to game 2 and see if the A's can win their next series of 2025 and take care of business. Osvaldo Bido, another model of consistency, was taking the hill against Jonathan Cannon. Few opportunities early on for both clubs offensively on what was a rather colder and windier night. The lone run in the first 5 frames was picked up by the White Sox on a Brooks Baldwin solo home run in the bottom of the 3rd. Bido turned in another quality start, pitching into the 6th inning, continues to find ways to go deeper and deeper than the previous time out there. He went 5 2/3, 5 hits allowed, 1 earned, 1 walk. Didn't strike out anyone, but really did job to induce a lot of weak contact. So definitely worked out in and out of trouble there in the middle frames. He continues to just give his team a chance to win and get consistent outs. So just want to shout him out. Vito continuing to be consistent for the A's early on in this opportunity in the 3 spot in the rotation. Top of the 6th, the A's would finally get to work. Wanted to support Vito's solid performance and get him the W. At this point, it was a 1-0 game. Soderstrom, he singled, advanced to second on a Shea Langoliers ground out to third base. It was hit softly, so it took the runner's momentum towards first base, hence why Soderstrom was able to advance to second. J.J. Bleday, he tied it up at this point with an RBI single up the middle. And then with 2 outs, another clutch hit with runners in scoring position by Gio Urshela, who had one in game 1, too, as well, to give him that initial 4-3 lead. Well, in this one, he laced a 2-run triple to pull the A's ahead 3-1. Little trouble for Leclerc, who continues to try to find his footing here in the early stages of the 2025 season. He loaded the bases, and with 2 outs in the 7th, Kotze grabbed the ball before it turned into anything monumental. Tyler Ferguson came on to get Luis Robert Jr. to ground out and keep the game at bay 3-1. He would come back out and pitch a clean 8th before it was Miller time. Burn this one to the ground. Good morning, Sosa. Good afternoon, Jones. And good night, Vargas. As Miller K's the side, picks up his 5th save of the 2025 season. A's win 3-1 and clinch the series victory. Okay. And like I had started mentioning during this recap of the game 2 of this series, Beto was good again, just continues to be a model of consistency. It just seems like he does a good job. It seems like his command is like improving with each time out there. And I just think that comes with more confidence. And you can see he just gets into a good rhythm out there and keeps his defense really engaged. A lot of ground balls, some fly balls, but, especially this one, didn't strike out any batters, but definitely was plenty good enough to give the A's every opportunity to come back and win this game. He only gave up the 1 run working into the 6th inning. I think he just keeps getting the ball and competing, and he keeps proving Kotze correct as to, why he deserves to be in this rotation and stay there, because he is someone that falls into the category similar to Mitch Spence, that he does serve some time in the bullpen. But also, I think he has found his footing and deserves every time, every 5th day in that rotation spot. It just seems like it flows through him, and he just brings a good energy every time he's out there on the hill. Really, but I look forward to seeing him each time out there. I think the stuff is really electric, and now he's really finding a way to harness it all in. I think that was the only missing piece in terms of as a starter, but he seems to have a good plan of attack and a good relationship with his catcher, whoever's back there. And I just think he is confident in this stuff, that he knows his best is going to be better than the hitter's best on that day. So just wanted to shout him out. Every time he seems to be out there, A's have a chance to win. It's a good tag to have on you. Leclerc, unfortunately, he continues to struggle. He had a lot of traffic. It just seems like the command is a little bit off, a little bit erratic. And I know he got squeezed on some of those outside fastballs, but honestly, when you're kind of a little bit erratic and all over the strike zone a little bit, it's going to be hard for the umpire to justify giving you those borderline calls. Like it's normally, and that's not how a call, just call it how it should be. But I do know that's how the nature of the game goes. It seems like, the guys that, maybe on the mound's grinding and maybe towards the end of a start or at some point, those 50-50s, they know that pitcher's kind of earned it. He's been working those corners and locating consistently with that command and been kind of all around the zone. So if there's ever kind of like a fluke situation or whatnot where, you flip a coin, that one may go up in the favor of the pitcher in the umpire's mind. So that's just kind of how it works. And I don't think Leclerc necessarily has earned that this year. So I just think, his big thing, if he can get ahead and, kind of let that splitter work a little bit more, it does seem like he falls a lot behind hitters. But hey, good news is that it's still April. It's a long season, and I do think he is here for a reason. He is still going to serve that back end of the bullpen role just fine. It's just sometimes guys just are having some struggles early on at the onset of the season. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others to get going. I do think he will find it. Just kind of want to point it out. It just seems like his last few outings has definitely been more traffic than without. But Ferguson and Miller, I mean, they're really forming a good back end of the bullpen there. It was really good. Ferguson can pitch that multi-inning role if needed. I think he went 1 1/3 tonight. So, but I've seen him go 2. I've seen him go 1 2/3. Don't want to necessarily always rely on that. Although he was warming up in the eighth too as well. I think he can get 4 or 5 outs. Obviously, former starter. I don't think that would be a problem. I know he's in a different role now, but it's good to have that flexibility. But those two really form a good duo. I think both righties, but throwing from different arm angles and a little bit different pitch description for each of the pitch mix. Excuse me. So, very excited to see that pairing come into light, and I think it's really going to pay dividends moving forward here. JJ Bleday, he went 3 for 4 in this one. He had the tying RBI single early to really get this offense going. That was dormant for the first 5 frames, and he plays great. He's been playing great defense in center field. Made a couple nice plays in this one, a diving catch. Definitely in a game that was pretty tightly contested. I mean, defense is everything. So really good to see Bleday starting to break out, kind of get into a better rhythm there. And how about the clutch hitting continuing from Gio Urshela? And I know the numbers offensively necessarily might not be the prettiest if you're looking just on the surface level, but I feel like he's had already 4 or 5 clutch hits in this early year. And he had 2 of them in this series. So game 1, he had the go-ahead hit, and then this one too as well. I mean, he had the 2-run triple and got them the 3-1 lead, and that was the final decision here. So he had the game-winning hit. In game 1, he had I think it was the RBI double that made it 4-3 at the time. And then obviously they pulled ahead and scored 8 more on unanswered runs. But this one meant a little bit more because that was the 3-1 final. And without that, who knows how this game would have turned out. So hats off to Gio Urshela continuing to come through with runners in scoring position. And at this point, the A's 2 up, 1 to go in this 3-game series. It's time to break the brooms out and go for the sweep in the daytime in Chicago, as the A's would have J.P. Sears going up against right-handed pitcher Davis Martin. The bats certainly got hot early. 3 pitches in, back-to-back doubles from Lawrence Butler and Jacob Wilson. 1-0 A's before you can even blink. Pitchers would settle in from there and trade zeros until the 5th, when Lawrence Butler launched an absolute, no doubt, mammoth home run to right field, 417 feet to right. His second of the year. It's now 2-0 A's. A's would add on in the 6th after a leadoff single from Rooker. JJ Bleday keeps the hot hitting going and launches a 2-run home run, his second of the year as well, and that made it 4-0 A's. Sears seemed to get stronger as the game would roll along. He's turned in a solid performance. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits allowed, no runs, 2 walks, 2 Ks on an even 100 pitches. Tyler Soderstrom certainly wanted to be the sole home run leader once again, as during this day that he came into a tie at 8 with Seattle Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh. Well, he wanted to get the lead once again and deposited his own 9th home run of the year in the 7th. Once again, he is the major league leader in home runs through 19 games. That's 5-0 A's at this point. Wilson adds on an RBI double, his second RBI double of the game, to make it 6-0 in the 9th. And then Rooker flashed a little bit of no doubt power, watches it fly for a 2-run, 415-foot blast for his 5th of the year. It's 8-0 now. Sears to Murdoch to Alexander. A's pitch a shutout, 8-0 final, and they complete the sweeps and get to use the brooms they brought. They're now 9-10 on the year and having won 4 of 6. J.P. Sears was awesome in this one. I do think he was kind of nibbling a little bit, maybe working a little bit harder in this game earlier in his outing. But it seemed like from the 3rd inning on, he seemed to get stronger with each inning and working more efficiently. And what a performance. I mean, 6 shutout innings, 100 inning work, 100 pitches. Talk about working like an ace, a workhorse. He continues to just take the ball every 5th day and put up a consistent performance. I can't really think of many times, maybe on one hand, in his career where he's had absolute clunkers. It seems like he's going 5, 6, 7, and he's not going to give up more than 3. And obviously, was at the start of a shutout today. Always exciting for the pitching staff to especially close out a series like that with a pretty dominant shutout. It was good to see some good performances from Murdoch, who flashed a little leather on the mound too as well. Good to see Jason Alexander from AAA Vegas coming up and getting some early appearances to close it out today. The Butler power display was on today. He added his 2nd home run of the year and a double. he's looking a lot more poised and consistent with his approach. It doesn't seem like he's ever trying to work outside of himself and try to do too much. And his average is up to 340 now. I know the home runs necessarily aren't as there as early as possible. Hey, only 19 games in. There's 162 of these, and he does seem to be like the type of hitter that gets going as the season rolls along. But he looks great already. Like, he's hit the ball to all parts of the field. It was that home run was majestic. I mean, I think it was like a 116-foot apex, something. It was something monstrous, and he absolutely belted it to right field off of Martin. But he definitely looks like poison. It was good to see Rooker get it going again. His timing's getting down. Ending his series on a really positive note, hitting a no doubt at the left. He even stood there and watched it for a second. But it was kind of one he just kind of sunk into his balance there and watched that thing fly. So he had his fifth of the year. I'm glad to see those two really starting to get rolling with the dish. And J.J. Bleday, too, kind of has had a quiet start offensively to the year. He had a nice little series here. Went 3 for 4 the other night, and then the last game he hits a 2-run home run. Continues to flash that good leather in center field. Lots of extra base hits in this one. 8 of their 13 hits in Game 3 were extra base hits. Shout out Max Schumann. He had 2 triples in this one. Lawrence Butler had 2 with the double and the home run. Jacob Wilson had 2 doubles. Rooker had the home run, and as did Bleday. So that is where you get to 8. All in all, took care of business in this series, got the sweep. Anything less, it wouldn't have been a failure, but honestly, with the increased expectations for the A's here in 2025, if you are going to try to make some noise and be there at the end in some capacity in terms of a postseason chase, these are the games you got to win. And that's what they did. Even in some unfriendly conditions, they didn't use that as an excuse or a crutch. They just went out there and they showed they were the better team and executed like the better team. So let's shout out quickly our 3 stars that we thought in this series. And then at that point, we will move on ahead here to the next upcoming series and actually shout out one of our partner once again. But before we do, I want to make sure we give proper credence to our 3 stars. So 3rd star, like we mentioned, was J.J. Bleday, center fielder. He went 4 for 13 in this series. He had the 2-run home run. He had the go-ahead single. He went 3 for 4. I think he really is starting to wake up at the plate, and that's a really good welcome sign for this A's lineup that seems to get deeper and deeper as these guys' bats keep getting going. 2nd star, Brent Rooker. He had, I believe, 6 hits in the series, including a 3 for 5 performance and hit. An absolute no-doubter, tape measure shot in Game 3 to cap off the game scoring. And I do think he's really in a place where he's finally gotten that timing back down, and I think he's about to really take off here and see if he'll carry over into Milwaukee and beyond. And our 1st star, of course, Tyler Soderstrom, who had the 2 home run game, and he actually added a 3rd home run during this 3rd game of this series because he wanted to be the Major League home run leader. He has 9 on the year now, but he had 3 home runs and 7 RBIs in this series, and he had 6 hits in total too as well. So those are our 3 stars: J.J. Bleday, Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom. Couldn't really pick one pitcher in particular. I really considered giving J.P. Sears a star. Also, just wanted to do the pitching staff again as a whole because I think all in all, they did do an excellent job. They gave up 4 runs in 3 games and gave the offense every opportunity to get going. So just maybe they consider this an honorable mention star. The A's pitching staff really held it down. I think the starters did a phenomenal job. Springs after that 1st inning, Beto with another quality performance, and Sears with an elite performance. So, and the bullpen did a great job as well. They didn't give up many runs throughout this series. So, with that caps another series. The A's are victorious in this one. They sweep the Chicago White Sox by scores of 12-3, 3-1, and 8-0. Now it's on to Milwaukee for 3. But before we do, we want to shout out Visit Mesa and then get into our Milwaukee Brewer series preview. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome to Mesa, Arizona, a destination for every season. Experience a destination where adventure, culture, and culinary experiences are limitless. As the gateway to the stunning Sonoran Desert and Tonto National Forest, Mesa invites you to explore its scenic waterways, kayak through winding canyons, or paddleboard along the Salt River. For a one-of-a-kind desert adventure, ride the waves at Rebel Surf at Cannon Beach, the country's first surf park of its kind. Downtown Mesa is a vibrant hub, home to the Mesa Arts Center, public art, award-winning breweries, and local shops. Food lovers can explore the fresh foodie trail and the diverse flavors of Mesa's Asian district. Sports fans can experience MLB spring training with the Chicago Cubs and Athletics, or visit one of North America's largest youth sports complexes. As the world's first autism-certified city, Mesa is dedicated to accessibility and inclusivity for all visitors. Get on down to Mesa as soon as you can. All right. And with that, we are going to talk about what is to come with their next upcoming series. So they took a nice little short 2-hour bus ride from Chicago to Milwaukee to kick off another series, as they are going to be commencing on a 3-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers, with first pitch scheduled tonight at 5:10 p.m. They will be here to continue this little winning streak that they've got going. Obviously, it is the back end of a 6-game road trip. But with that, it is important to know thy enemy before we give our thoughts on how we think the series could play out. So, those Milwaukee Brewers, on the season, they have a 10-9 win-loss record. They are fresh off winning 2 out of 3 against the Detroit Tigers. After dropping the first one at home, they came roaring back to win the final 2. So they are riding high as well in a 2-game winning streak. Here are some of their team stats on the campaign thus far. They are hitting .235 as a team for a team batting average. That's just 14th in all of baseball. They've slugged 21 home runs, which is good for 12th in baseball. And they've scored 92 runs, which is good for 7. So it seems like the offense has been swinging it pretty well early, which is usually the other way around. It's usually the Brewers pitching, especially I'm talking about recent Brewers history. And obviously, Brewers fans, you know your team better than I, but it seems like the bats really get going a little bit later, but the pitching is what's been carrying this franchise the last few years. But it seems like the roles are reversed right now, because the pitching has kind of gotten off to a little slow start. So they pitched to a 4.46 ERA, which is good for 24th in baseball. They've recorded 61 strikeouts, which is good for 16th. And they've allowed 27 home runs, which is the second most in all of baseball. I know that's a little bit inflated from their opening series weekend in New York when they hit 9 in one game. So I understand it's inflated a little bit, but nevertheless, they've allowed a ton of home runs early. Just want to give you 3 hitters to watch there. For the Brewers, Jackson Chourio, who leads in various offensive categories for the Brewers, including home runs. Well, he's got 5 on the year. Sal Frelick, who leads the team in batting average with a .318 average at the time of this recording. He's their right fielder. Churio's the left fielder. And then catcher William Contreras, who's one of the good offensive catchers in baseball. So obviously they have a little bit deeper of a lineup than what we just saw with the White Sox. They got guys sprinkled like Christian Yelich. The average hasn't been there, but he's popped 4 home runs. Rhys Hoskins is a pretty steadying force in the middle of that lineup. Bryce Terang is really good with the glove. He's a good contact hitter. So they've definitely got some pieces in that lineup that can make some noise. And then hence why you can see why they've been towards the top half in all Major League Baseball in terms of team offense. So just wanted to give you some names to look out for as you're watching, and obviously keep an eye out and just see how they operate, because the Brewers, they're a very well run franchise, and they have a really good manager in Pat Murphy. That is their manager, and he really instills just kind of a lot of old school mentality of hustling, playing hard, playing to win every night, and not making it about yourself and making it more about team. So just pay attention to how the Brewers kind of handled their business, whether they're winning or losing. It's kind of a pretty consistent way of attack, and that's why they've been pretty consistent over these last several years with Pat Murphy, and then previously Craig Counsell, who's now the manager of the Cubs, who we saw earlier this year. I just wanted to give a little mention, a little love to the Brewers, because they are one of the models of consistency of how they handle their baseball operations. All right, let's move on to the pitching and matchups expected and game time. So like I mentioned, game 1 is tonight, Friday, 5:10 p.m. Pacific time is first pitch. JT Ginn, who will be looking to build off of that last solid performance and who knows, maybe go a little even deeper in this game, but just have another consistent outing. He'll be paired up against the Brewers' ace, Freddie Peralta, who is in the middle of a pretty fine season himself. His ERA is somewhere, I believe it's 2.31 at the time of recording. Tomorrow, Saturday, game will be first pitch 4:10 p.m. Pacific time. It'll be Luis Severino. Always love a Sevy day going up against right-handed pitcher Chad Patrick. And then Sunday's game will be a day game, 11:10 a.m. Pacific time. It'll be a happy Easter, hopefully for the A's, as they have Jeffrey Springs going up against to be determined. At the time of recording on Friday, there has not been a starter announced for the Brewers. We'll be sure to update on social media as soon as we hear any announcements there. So we'll do a little deep dive into the two pitchers that we do know that are going to be throwing for the Brewers, we'll start with Freddie Peralta, which will be the toughest customer I think the A's are going to be facing this weekend. So he works with a 4-pitch mix, fastball, changeup, curveball, slider. Throws his fastball 60% of the time. So he's going to come right after you with heat. His average fastball is 95.2 miles an hour. So it's going to be coming in firm, and he's going to be working up and in on righties, kind of working to both sides of the plate pretty consistently. But he's just going to come after you. He doesn't like to walk hitters, and he tries to get that ball by it with velocity. Lots of red on Baseball Savant, which is a good thing. His expected ERA was 2.47, which is in the 83rd percentile. These are all according to all qualified pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. Expected batting average against 185, which is the 88th percentile. Whiff percentage 35.6, which is the 91st percentile, and his K percentage of 30.4 is 82nd percentile. This is all of baseball once again. He has a smooth, repeatable delivery. He is the main veteran on the staff. He is the ace. Like I say, he's going to come at you with heat. So be ready to hit. He does have really good command, hence the repeatable delivery and mechanics too as well. Where he can be susceptible is if his secondary pitches sometimes take a little bit of time to get into a rhythm. And if he doesn't have that early, then you can just sit on that one pitch and drive it to each part of the field. But if he's got everything working, he is a really tough customer. I do think this could potentially be the toughest game of the weekend for the A's. So just something to sit back and really watch one of the better arms in our game. Freddie Peralta, he is going to come at you. He's going to keep this game tight. So just wanted to give a little background about him. On to Saturday starter for the Brewers. It is Chad Patrick. Not much history. Actually, my apologies before I move on. Just the brief history. I think he's only had 9 at-bats against the current A's roster in terms of Peralta here. But in those short appearances, Seth Brown and Brent Rooker both had a home run against them. So just hopefully they do that again. That'd be cool to see. All right, now let's move on to Chad Patrick. He does work with a 5-pitch mix, a cutter, fastball, sinker, changeup, slider. Sounds like, again, a very fastball-heavy guy. And you have a fastball cutter or a four-seam fastball cutter and sinker. Those are 3 basically different pitch types, but all are in the fastball family. So that sounds like someone that likes to work multiple quadrants of the plate and just come at you with heat and different movement. His expected ERA is 3.62, which is significantly higher than 1.76. When I dove in a little bit more, it does seem like he gives up some higher contact. So I do think he works into it in a lot of trouble. I do think he has a pretty below average walk rate too as well, 17.2, which is in the 8th percentile of all Major League Baseball. So I do think there's going to be a lot of opportunities if the A's are patient and just wait for their pitch in their zone to kind of do some damage here and not give in to anything that might not be in their zone. And maybe it's a ball or two off the plate or giving into a secondary pitch that you can spin on early in the count. Things like that. I do think Chad Patrick, he's been effective. Obviously, he's pitched to a 1.76 ERA. I do think he's just danced into and out of a lot of trouble, and that balloon can pop at any point and have a start like that. So just something to keep an eye on. I do think, like I said, the opportunities may be more limited for the A's offense tonight, but I do think there could be more opportunities for some more success tomorrow. Not that they can't be successful tonight. Just kind of tell it as it is based on how these pitchers have performed early on here in 2025, and how the A's have performed too as well. Like I said, the Game 3 starter for the Brewers has not been announced, and as soon as we do, be sure to check out our socials. We'll announce it on Instagram. Probably put it on our story at A's Day Baseball Podcast. On X, formerly known as Twitter, I'll tweet it out, or I'll post it. Excuse me, A's Day Baseball. That's where you can find us on X, and we'll be sure to make those announcements there. And then obviously be sure to check the YouTube channel for episodes like this at A's Day Podcast. So just wanted to sneak those socials in there when I could. Now let's talk about the series history, about what went down between these two teams when they faced off in 2024. The Milwaukee Brewers did win 2 out of 3 in Oakland at the Coliseum, and that was the series that took place from August 23rd to the 25th. The A's lost the first two, 11-3 and 9-5, but then they came back and won Game 3, 4-3, as Joey Estes picked up the win on that day. Okay, and before we get on out of here, we're going to continue to make our home run prediction and series prediction. We're on a pretty good roll with the home runs. Got another one right, and Tyler Soderstrom proved me right, I think, about 7 minutes into the game. As we predicted that in the last series, that Tyler Soderstrom, if you listen back, I said we'll hit at least one home run. I said there could be an opportunity for more. He didn't end up hitting 3, but I'll just take credit for the one. Anyway, just being silly. With that, would love to take him again. But we kind of want to roll the dice here and just kind of spread the love here too, as well as other guys that we think have an opportunity to homer in this series. So I think he's kind of found his stroke at the plate. You can see the average increasing. The power is starting to wake up a little bit. I do think with a lot of fastball opportunities this weekend there are to come. Obviously, we'll see who's going to be pitching on Sunday, but at least for tonight and tomorrow, I'm going to pick a guy that's really good at hitting fastballs. And I'm going to pick Lawrence Butler is going to hit at least his 3rd home run of the year at some point this weekend. Mark it down. Lawrence Butler is our A's Day home run hitter of the weekend. Then we're going to make our series prediction. It kind of went back and forth again a little bit here between them winning 2 out of 3 or losing 2 out of 3. I don't think it's going to be a sweep either way. This is a much more formidable opponent than they are just fresh off facing. But like I said in the previous episode, I do believe that the A's have been battle-tested early with their matchups with the Cubs, with the Padres, and the Mets. So I do think they've shown they can play with anyone. And I do think the Brewers are a good team, but I don't think they're necessarily as deep and as strong as they were last year. I do think there is like some little flaw there I can't put my finger on. I do think it comes with the arms on the mound because the offense seems to be banging a little bit. But with that, I'm going to predict that the A's are going to go into Milwaukee and win 2 out of 3 and finish off a 5-1 road trip in the Midwest. I do think that would springboard this team with some positive momentum to come back home with. I do believe they will lose tonight, 5-1. But I think they'll bounce back and win games 2 and 3 of the series. I do think they'll win 8-3 on Saturday and then a close one, 5-4 on Sunday. So let's go A's. Let's see if they could get even further up the division board. And I do would love to see if they win 2 out of 3, that would get them back to 500. So let's root for that. Let's root for some more success for the green and gold. And with that, that culminates another episode of A's Day. Today, we talked about what went down during the A's sweep of the Chicago White Sox the last 3 days and what to look ahead as they start a new series taking on the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee to culminate a 6-game road trip. Once again, you can find us on our socials at A's Day Baseball Podcast on Instagram, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at A's Day Baseball, and on our YouTube channel at A's Day Podcast. And please, we would love each and every one of you to become an official subscriber on our Patreon site, patreon.com/A's Day. For just $2 a month, you'll be entered to win monthly A's Day t-shirts, autographed A's memorabilia, future A's game ticket giveaways, and so much more as we are able to grow this platform together. Appreciate each and every one of you kicking off your weekend with us, spending part of your Friday listening to my thoughts on athletics baseball. So sit back, get on out of here, and get ready to enjoy first pitch tonight, 5:10 for the A's in Milwaukee, taking on the Brewers, starting off another 3-game series. They've won 4 of 6, 3 in a row. Let's see if they can keep the win streak going against tough customer Freddie Peralta, our guy, J.D. Ginn, looking to get another dub on the year. Once again, I'm your host, Joe Grado. Thank you for listening to my thoughts on A's baseball. That completes another edition of A's Day. Holy Toledo, let's go A's.